At least it's sunny. Hey, Phil.
Happy perihelion, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't feel like it's in Canada right now.
And we are now live on YouTube. Oh. So, hello.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy first Insider's Guide to the Galaxy of 2022. Hope some of your New Year's resolutions to start observing. Before we get started, I'm going to introduce myself. If you missed the last Insider's Guide, I was on as a special guest. My name is Samantha Jewett. I am here. Basically, as you've noticed, I am not Jenna. If you're a member of the RASC, you would have been notified that Jenna has left the RASC to pursue other career endeavors. And I, who have worked as her assistant for the last year, has now taken her role as the Education and Outreach Coordinator for RASC National. And now I am hosting Insider's Guide. Now, don't get too worried. Jenna said she promised us she wouldn't ditch the audience too much and she'd come and say hi every so often. Just now I'm going to be the permanent fixture and she'll be the special guest.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you everybody in the chat for your warm welcomes. Bear with me if I have any technical challenges. This is my first time, but go well. We also have Chris, as everybody knows, what a fixture. And we have Blake Nancarrow today, our special guest. Isn't it lucky? First episode, we get a special guest who is the chair of the Observing Committee. And that's where we lead on what our topic is today, is RASC observing programs. What can you observe and what can you work on for your New Year's astronomy resolutions? Chris, anything to say?
Yeah, I thought, we're busy working away at our topics for the upcoming sessions. And I thought I'd been chatting with Blake over the holidays because we like to hang out and chat about things every now and again. And I had recently completed and submitted a couple of the programs. So I thought, yeah, what a great time to kick off the year with a summary of what's available in the programs and give people projects that they can work on through the year and keep Blake busy and happy. So yeah, and Blake's produced some content he's been sharing with some of the centers across the RASC centers across the country. So I thought Blake would give us a scoop here and join us today and give us the news. So welcome, Blake.
Thanks for having me. So I'll fire up my slide deck here and I'll share my screen with y'all.
We're gonna keep this a little bit informal. Blake has a presentation, but I think we'll pause and chat a little bit as we go. And towards the end, if we have time, we can talk a little bit about some non-RASC programs and things you can work on as well.
We also have some
and of course questions. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have some asks because I'm sure this is not new to people who have been with RASC for a while. So I want to know who's done and who's not. Anyways, get started, Blake. You got this.
Yeah, so this is a presentation that I put together for a RASC center. I recently met up with members of the Sarnia Center and did this sort of pitch. So for that it was, RASC members, but there are some program or a program that we offer that's open to the general public. So I'll speak in sort of general terms, and I know that some people might be tuning in who are not card-carrying RASC members at this stage. So again, thanks for having me. My name is Blake Nancarrow, and I'm happy to talk about the programs that RASC offers. These are our visual observing programs. I can take questions about our photographic programs, but that's not my department. You could arrange for another guest speaker in the future if you wanted to talk about the photographic
part 2.
Yeah,
but we got connections.
if you do have questions, I can answer the basics about that. I'm coming to you from Bradford, West Gwillimbury. This is the traditional territory of the Wendat, Mississauga, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. and I'm always thrilled to share the sky, and I'm very proud and pleased to be able to share the land. So above and below our heads and feet. A bit about me. If you don't know me personally, I've been interested in astronomy for a long time. You can tell I'm old. I'm a child of the space race. So like lots of our members or other people, was fascinated by what was happening with NASA in the 60s and 70s. So just maybe not surprisingly, a great interest in science and space exploration and stuff like that. And I was starting to do some astronomy kind of on my own. I taught myself a lot when I was a kid. And I'm sure I saw it before then, but I finally did my first recorded observation of M45 or Messier 45, well known as the Pleiades star cluster or the Subaru. That appears in my logbook for the first time in July 1990. It was later that year that I bought my first telescope, and it's still my preferred telescope. It's a nice intermediate size. It's kind of a jack of all trades. It's a Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope by Celestron, 8-inch diameter, so pretty good light grasp. And I taught myself how to use that, and didn't know at the early stages about dew heaters, so I would use it for 1 hour and pack up and go to bed. That's what I thought Canadian astronomers did. So now I have all the dew heating equipment and stuff like that. I love doing long observing sessions. I joined RASC in the spring of 2007, and that was a big game changer. I was really kind of sitting on the fence with the hobby, and I've since done lots of volunteering things, and Chris trained me to be one of the telescope operators at the David Dunlap Observatory, among other things. I'm very much a hacker, a fixer. I think some of you, I saw a note, somebody read my article about 3D printing in Sky News recently. So I'm always trying to fix stuff and repair things and keep things out of landfill and stuff like that, always making things and so on. And I recently joined the proofreading team for the Observer's Handbook. So I'm pleased to help out in that respect as well. But I'm the observing chair. I was asked to be the interim chair last summer, and nobody's told me to stop doing it. So I'm still heading up the observing committee. And why do we exist? What do we do? We're all so I'm your representative right now of the National Observing Committee that has members in a bunch of centers, coast to coast to coast. We have a good sized team with about 15 people. That represents about a dozen different centers. And of the observing committee members, we've got 25 certificates. So that's pretty good. We've got some experience. We've got a good body of knowledge with observing, hundreds of years experience when you add up all of our sort of astronomy hobby or maybe professional experiences. And we're all pretty passionate about visual astronomy, and that's again my focus here today. And it's not, let me put a card on the table. It's not that I'm anti-photography. When I got into the hobby, I was an avid photographer, and I wanted to do that at the early stages, and I do lots of imaging, but our focus today is about visual astronomy because that still gives me goosebumps. Oh, sorry, forgot to mute my phone. I might have to mute here in a second. But again, I get really charged looking through the eyepiece and seeing something millions of light years away or tens of thousands of light years away. That's just really cool. So that's the observing committee, and I'm leading that excellent team of people. I wanted to show you sort of what's been happening over the last few years. And sorry about that.
That's okay. I can, if you want to just mute and I can, you good?
So you can see, if you look at this, all the yellow bars that are kind of back into the 80s and 90s, that was our first observing program. We launched a Messier observing certificate, and that remains popular. But you can see the yellow's bar is getting squished or going down a bit. Fewer people are doing that. In the mid or late 90s, the green bar shows up. That's the finest NGC, and that's, if you look in your observer's handbook, you'll find the finest NGC list by Alan Dyer. He built that observing list about cool objects, things that he thinks are as interesting or more interesting than some of the Messier objects. And we built an observing certificate program for that. So you can see that new programs are being introduced in the 2000s, and we have a couple of new programs just in the last couple of years. What's really interesting to me, coming on the committee and then becoming the chair, is just this huge increase in activity in the last couple of years. And, you know, we're often talking about this, what would attribute or contribute to this. We believe a big part of this is the efforts of Chris and Samantha and Jenna and John Reed over the last couple of years, talking about the Explore the Universe program, and then last year talking about the Explore the Moon program. We think those were huge at generating interest and awareness of these observing programs. You can see here in this bar for last year, that gray and the orange here, that's all Explore the Moon certificates. That's got to be because of that webinar, so the insider's guides that all happen about that. And Samantha, you doing your on-the-fly sketches were kind of amazing. That was really
great.
Thank you.
We also built some videos, so we think that's making for a little uptick. I'll show you where you can find those on our website. But that's really interesting to me that we're seeing a lot of activity. We think another part of it is that people are cooped up at home, looking for something to do, and hauling the telescopes out in the backyard, and looking forward to something to do. They want a project. They're really interested in working through something. So we think that's a part of it too. Can we sustain this? I don't know. I'm thrilled that we just have general sort of interest, but we almost hit, that's an old chart. We almost hit 70 applications for the calendar year of 2021. So that's pretty neat. So why does the observing committee exist? We want to give people goosebumps. We want to help give people a goal or a target. Now, I know there's lots of different styles or approaches to observing, but for me, I need a target ahead of me. I need something to work towards. If I don't have kind of a checklist with me when I go out to observe on a nice clear night, I end up looking at the same things again. I don't sort of do any uncharted territory. So I use a variety of techniques, but I generally have a list of new unseen things and things I didn't get a good look at the last time. But in general, I'm always looking at new stuff. And for me, that makes really rewarding observing sessions. So our observing campaigns, the certificate programs with a list of targets, is great for people that are like that want something to work towards, need a goal or a target ahead of them. So we want to help in that respect for people that like to observe that way. These programs can be done with different equipment. Some of them are straightforward, very minimal equipment, eyeball and binoculars, and some of them are complex and are deep sky objects. You'll need a decent aperture telescope, and you'll need dark skies. So that's nice too. We've got something for everybody. We've got a lot of different styles of programs with different levels of technicality or complexity. We want to help people too with, especially early on, people getting started at sort of skill building, helping you become a better observer. And we all feel pretty strongly that logging observations is good about that. That if you do good log notes, that means you're looking closely or kind of deeply at an object, as opposed to just checking a box. And sketching is not required, but we strongly encourage it. But we all think about that too, that sketching really helps you see better. You're lingering, you're absorbing more photons, you're not rushing through a list. So sketching, again, is not required, but we highly recommend it, that people do it in conjunction with their logging. So we just think that's building good techniques and good habits and stuff like that. I'm biased. I make lists. I'm always making notes. I'm always writing stuff down. But I love going back through my old log notes from 10 or 20 years ago, and I get drawn into that story. I'm back in that moment. I get to experience it again. So that's a fun thing about log notes, is that you can revisit those old memories. You can re-experience those things. If people can read your handwriting, other people can experience that moment as well, like they were sitting beside you, and that can also help you show progression. That if you struggled with something early on, you'll see that you're getting better over time. A lot of times I revisit objects because I didn't see them well. Say I'm trying to split a challenging double star. I might try 5 or 10 times before I get a clean split. And that could be a bunch of factors: bad sky conditions, or I'm tired, or my telescope is not well collimated. Something might, or a variety of factors might conspire against me observing it. And then finally I get it. And that's always really satisfying when I've been working away at it. So again, good logging helps me sort of especially enjoy that. We have lots of programs, lots and lots of programs. Something, again, for everybody. I've tried to organize them here in kind of kind of levels. So we've got stuff that's good for people just starting out, don't have a lot of equipment, like stargazing, like planet gazing. So the Explore the Universe is a great sampler. And we have Explore the Moon. And I say 2 flavors. One of the Explore the Moons just requires binoculars and has a small set of targets. So quite achievable for lots of people. The Explore the Moon also comes in a telescope version, so small telescope, maybe on or would normally be on a tripod, so nice steady views then. Doesn't have to be a big telescope. It has about double the target. So these are things that are great for people just starting out here. I was just thinking I could sort of show these. So let me launch a browser here, and I'll take a moment. Intermediate level programs. Sorry?
We've been sharing the links as you speak. So yeah, feel free to open it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you go through them, we'll share the links to the programs you display.
Yeah, thanks. And we'll do a little walking tour of the website, because each one of the programs has kind of a dedicated page to it with lots of information. Maybe almost too much information. Some people just starting out might think, oh my goodness, there's a lot here on the Explore the Universe page. But we're just trying to provide as much information as we can, answer all the questions that we can to help people get started. But they can make, some of these pages are pretty long and can make for a long read.
I will say the PDFs, which will show, they break them down quite well for a new beginner. The Explore the Universe and Explore the Moon, they give you all the information you need. You don't even have to look anywhere else for the beginner programs for these, which it makes it very helpful as someone starting off. The programs for the intermediate observer, we classify those or consider those the Messier Catalogue, so a small telescope needed for those. I mentioned the finest NGC from the list in the Observer's Handbook. And one of our newest programs is the Double Star Observing Program. And that one's nice because that can kind of be done anywhere. You can do that in the city. You don't have to be in
dark skies for those. Some of the objects in the Messier and the sea, you might have to get out of the city to see a few of these objects. So if you're in a highly or heavily light polluted community, that might block you from easily seeing or seeing at all some of the fainter objects in those couple of programs. And then we've got some advanced programs, the Isabelle Williamson Lunar Observing Program, very challenging with hundreds of targets, but an extremely deep dive into the geological formation of the moon and some of its history. Very rich program. We have the Deep Sky Gems, which on paper looks fairly simple. There's not a huge list of objects, but Deep Sky Gems and Deep Sky Challenge, these are quite faint objects. So dark skies needed again, and maybe the slightly larger than average telescope can be helpful for these programs. Maybe a 10 or a 12-inch telescope makes a lot of these quite doable.
Even and/or, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got a modest telescope, but you live in the prairies or a place with pristine skies, then you're pretty well set to go. But those of us in the suburbs need the bigger aperture.
So that shows you we've got a bit of a mix here, right? There's kind of a program for everybody. So I'll just quickly show you the page, assuming my browser is not too sluggish here. And I apologize, my computer is quite slow right now, so that's not speedy.
I can always share my screen if you like, like you could walk me through it.
Yeah.
Sure. So let's do that. I'll stop my share here. So just pop into the RASC National website and start at the homepage. We'll start at square one. I'll walk you through sort of where to find everything.
Okay, I'll go here like this. I'll go home.
Yeah. So here we are at rasc.ca. So lots of stuff. There's our splash screen, various panels. We'll slide across there. But if you look closely, you'll see the menu bars up near the top: donate, society, publications, and so on. You should see when you hover on any one of those, a menu pops up down below. We're interested in the observing. You can actually see down at the bottom, there's Astro Sketchers, and midway through is Astro Imaging certificates. Those are those other sort of things, but I'm focusing on the visual observing programs. So that's the first item in the menu there, observing programs. And you can see on the menu a bit further down on the left, you can see all those programs that I talked about: Explore the Universe, Explore the Moon, the Messier Catalogue. Down at the bottom, the new program, the double stars, just below the deep sky targets. So this page is general information, just tells you what the programs are, why we made them, how you sort of work through them in general. But let's say you're interested in the Explore the Universe program. So lots of ways to jump into that. There's a link right there near the top of the screen, or the menu on the left. So Chris, do you want to jump into the Explore the Universe? And here's lots of information about the Explore the Universe program. We talk about what kind of targets exist in it, how many are required. You can see there's a total of 110 objects. Actually, it's 110 plus objects that are in the list or in the program, but you only need to observe 55 of them. So it's easy to get started. And that can be done in a relatively short period of time. But you see, it's a great sampler. We've got people looking at constellations, identifying some key or bright stars in those constellations, quick introduction to the moon and its phases, a few solar system objects, a handful of deep sky objects that can be seen. Again, all of these can be viewed with eyes or binoculars. And then we've got a little sampler, a little taste of double stars. If you scroll down a bit for me, Chris, we talk about once you've observed those things, you would apply for the certificate, and we have all the forms, all the documentation that you might need. So there's a guide in English and in French. We're trying to, by the way, do more language conversion for our program. So not all of them are available in French, but the Explore the Universe and the Explore the Moon are. So you can see those materials are available here. We have a workbook that people can print out. You can also buy a prefab workbook from our store. People that sort of like to do it themselves, you can download a log page and print it out and make copies of that. We have an optional variable star section for the Explore the Universe to get people interested in that too, if they're inclined. And then once you've done all the work, you've viewed your objects, you've got your log notes, maybe some sketches, you can fill out the application form, and that's a fill-in PDF, portable document format file, so easy to use. Scroll up a little bit for, oh, that's okay. There's the form. Scroll down in that form, you can see all the fill-in boxes. And that's for the minimum requirements. Just fill in the boxes, make some observing notes, share some of your observing notes, and that's the minimal requirement for that form.
So Blake, are all of these targets located manually? You have to find them yourself. It's not a group effort, right?
Yeah, so you kind of asked two questions there.
Yeah, I did, sorry.
Explore the Universe is very much a program where we want to help people get comfortable navigating the sky. So we're encouraging people, or it's a requirement of this particular program, that there be no electronic assistance per se. And by that we mean if you have a telescope that has go-to capabilities, you may not use the go-to capabilities of the telescope or the mount. You can still use that mount, you can still use that telescope, but we want you to locate the objects manually. Now that might sound intimidating, but if we're asking you to look at the moon, that's going to be pretty easy. Aim the telescope towards the moon, look through the finder scope, make sure that they're both aligned, get the moon and the finder scope, look through the telescope. There you go. You could identify some craters and some Maria, and you've completed some observations. So leaving the go-to capability off or disabled, or just not using it and manually moving around, it is required. Similarly, we do not want people to hook up a computer and make the computer jump to or go to the objects by computer-driven selection there. Now, some people ask if they can use a computer at all. You can use computer-based charts. You could use an app on your phone like Sky Safari to figure out where you need to go in the sky, identify some stars or star patterns that are maybe near a planet you're trying to find, and compare that to what you're seeing with your eyes or in the finder scope. That's fine. You can use electronic charts. You just can't make a computer or the hand controller go to the object for you.
So you can certainly do your planning, what's available tonight, if it's clear, using Stellarium or an app or something like that.
Yeah, I drink that Kool-Aid. I use computer software to do all my planning for that. And admittedly now, I often use go-to functions to find my objects. A lot of times my pointing's off. So my telescope lands at an incorrect area. I'm so glad I know how to do star hopping and field identification when the telescope doesn't point correctly. So often when people hear about star hopping the first time, they're going, whoa, I can't do that. How do humans do that? It's pretty intimidating at first blush, but it's a great skill, and it helps you when the telescope doesn't point right or the batteries die in the scope. You can still have a very pleasing, successful observing session.
I will echo what Blake said, as I'm still a very new observer. I have a background in astronomy, but they didn't teach me how to observe the night sky. So one of my favorite nights and I've learned a lot, was taking the ETU booklet out And my dad, my partner, and I, we all had binoculars. A couple of us had phones. My dad needed to go old school and use his star finder. And we just kind of sat in a field, popped around. And I really felt like I got oriented with the night sky. And I was able to view like 5 or 6 in one night very casually. But it also helped me become aware of how big the sky is and really kind of the vastness of how to find and star hop. And yeah, I can say don't use almost go with nothing. Like my telescope is from the 70s, so it has 0 electronics. Some kind of but yeah, as someone learning, that's my biggest struggle, is just learning how to star hop and learning how to find things. And the Explore the Universe program really offers you an easy list, as well as and it's not too challenging, but you still feel accomplished and you learn a lot. So.
Yeah, and once you got that, then you're ready to move up to the next stages. So.
Yeah. So I'll revisit the some of the requirements or the constraints of the programs. Like Chris's question is really good about the Explore the Universe. So no go-to assistance or direct computer mount assistance. You can still use tablets and phones and computers for charting. That's fine. Chris, scroll up for a little bit for me, please. I wanted to point out, back to those videos. So down a bit now. Yeah. So a few years ago, with the assistance of Dave Chapman out of the Halifax Center and John Reed again and others, we launched these videos on the observing programs. You can also see there's a video link here about how to use a Starfinder. So these are great if you're not one for reading lots of things. If you're more visual, avail yourself of these videos. We have a number of videos on the RASC observing programs, and you can see that there's a link to the part 1 beginner level, and that talks about just broadly how to sort of do the program and what kind of telescope equipment is suitable and so on. So check out those YouTube videos. We have direct links from the relevant pages in the observing program, or you can go to the RASC YouTube channel and you can find them all there as well.
Throwing them in the chat too right now. So
yeah, thanks. And one other thing I'll point out here is if you want to see your name and lights, notice that we post or note accomplishments on our website. Sometimes those pop up before the certificate itself arrives. So you can check out the website to see your name listed there, and we note the center.
My name's not there yet because I haven't finished compiling.
Yeah. Scroll up a little bit though. I think which one did you did the double stars one? So switch to the double stars page, Chris, and you can find your name there.
Yeah.
So double stars, and there's
there we go.
The podium.
There's only 3 people. Chris is number 3 on the podium for the.
And they'll be hand mailed out by me from office too.
That's right. Oh,
There's your other prize.
That's our newest program, so not a lot of names there. There it is. There's your name and lights again. And I'll talk about what we provide for each one of those programs to recognize people's accomplishments. But that's just one of the things. So you can see there's a boatload of information on these individual pages. They describe the program. We provide all the materials that you need. We have video links where relevant. The double stars one, I kind of went bonkers here with alternate materials that are available that are very supportive for people getting started with double stars. There's all the list of PDF files and so on. I've started doing this for our program. Chris has been helping me with this, that we're trying to make observing lists available for different software. So if you do like using, say, Sky Safari, and you want to do a program like the double star program, we've made the list available that you can load into Sky Safari. It'll give you all the targets, and then you can identify them. As you may know, with an observing list in Sky Safari, it can circle all the targets. So then you know where it is in the constellation, and you can either star hop to it. In the case of the double stars program, you may use a go-to scope if you want. So thanks for showing that. Just pop back up to the top there. So again, just to recap where we found this. So you would go into the menu bar across the top,
Yep.
which is marked as observing. Look for the observing programs menu. That gets you in the ballpark. That gets you to our main landing page for the observing programs. And then you should see links for our 8 different observing programs. And we have the split or the 2 subtypes within Explore the Moon, binoculars and telescopes. So arguably we have 9 different programs that people can pursue, or 9 different certificates that people could obtain with RASC. Thanks for sharing that. Is there anything else we want to look at here?
Do you want to talk about the Stellarium bookmarks for a second?
Sure. Go to the double stars one, because we did make them available there. Oh, you're showing it on RASC Toronto. Yeah.
Do you have one on? Yeah, I have one on double stars. Sure.
So in double stars, I made these. I think I did. So down to the bottom there with all the list of files. Observing list for Stellarium. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about the 4th from the bottom. Observing list, double star targets list for Stellarium. There's an Excel file. I'm a big fan of Sky Tools, so a bunch of different formats that are here. During the summer, was it the middle of the summer, I think, Chris, that Chris and I started kind of a big campaign of making observing lists inside the Stellarium software using the bookmark feature. And it was quite fantastic. The bookmarks are very useful for a presenter to have a list of targets that you want to jump to or demonstrate in the software. But it's very good for a target list. But recently, the Stellarium software was upgraded, version 21.2 or 21.3, altered drastically the behavior of the bookmarks. So now they're not working the way that we had envisioned, that it would be a target list, a viewable list. So we're kind of struggling with that right now. But if you've got an older version of Stellarium and it's working fine, say 21.0 or lower, and you're using bookmarks in Stellarium, don't upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very, very handy. Very, very handy.
Yeah, maybe don't do that upgrade unless you're compelled to for some reason, but you'll lose the bookmark target list capability in the software if that happens. We might come up with another way of doing it. I've not had much time to do a deep dive into Stellarium to see if there's some sneaky way that we can get around that. Broadly, Stellarium's fort is not planning observing sessions. So it's never really had a purpose-built capability in that, but who knows, maybe in a future version, they'll accommodate for it in a different way. And both Chris and I have a good voice. I contribute to the developers forum. So a lot of times I'll make product suggestions and they deploy them. So who knows what the future holds with Stellarium? That's just the nature of the beast with that software. But you can see, at least for the double stars program, we've made the lists available in other formats. If nothing else, Excel. And if you're a spreadsheet jockey, you might be able to get that data into a format that's suitable for whatever observing tool or planning tool that you might use.
Yeah.
Okay, food for thought. Okay, thanks for showing that. I'm gonna rest control screen share back, please, and back to so there's all the flavors. We had a quick look on the website of the program. So let me just briefly go through each one, answer a couple of questions. We've touched upon some of these things already. So explore the universe. What are the parameters or constraints for it? We talked about it's great for beginners. You don't need to own a telescope. Really good for people starting out, little or no knowledge of the sky. At a minimum, 55 targets. You can go whole hog and view the 110 targets and maybe the plus, meaning the variable star suggestion. So that might add up to 112 or 115 targets in total. And if people do things above and beyond the 55, we recognize that special accomplishment. Eyes and binoculars, so very minimal equipment. And you don't need special dark sky conditions. You can do a lot of this anywhere. Can you do it right from downtown, big city, metropolis like Toronto? I don't know. The downtown city core skies might wipe out some of the details of some of these targets, but we have open clusters, we have double stars, that'll punch through light pollution. So you can get a good chunk of this, if not all of them done, no matter where you are.
I can see quite
Upon
a few
completion,
from KW. Oh,
pardon me?
I said I can see quite a few from suburban Kitchener-Waterloo. I haven't had any issues at all. So
yeah, and don't take this the wrong way, but people starting out actually sometimes don't appreciate what they truly can see. You might point to the object, be on the object, and go, I don't see anything. But that's just the untrained eye. As we build up more and more experience, you could revisit that and you go, look at that, I do see it. And it's advanced techniques like averted vision will pull out things. You're looking directly at it, you go, I don't see anything. And you look a little bit off to the side, a bit to the right or a bit to the left with your eye, and you go, whoa, there's a big fuzzy thing there. I didn't see that before. So again, that's a great thing about these programs is you start building up your skill set and you get better at seeing. And when you get better at seeing, you get better at your log taking and note taking, and then you get better at seeing the next time. Every session you're getting more seat time or stick time, getting faster, better. We award upon completion a certificate and a pin. Hey, you got a pin handy?
I do have a pin ready. I don't know.
Hold that right up to the camera there. Let's see if it can focus on it.
Oh, I don't know.
That's not bad. But you can see that's a nice metal pin. It says EU in the middle. I show the image of it here. So
yeah, it looks exactly like the image, except it's in embossed where the white lines are. It's all metal. It's very nice.
Very nice pin, lapel pin. Some people stick them on their Tilly hats. And so on. So we provide a certificate. Chris showed briefly his certificate before. It was specifically, I think, for the double stars, but that's the general sort of certificate style. And so there it is. There's a
no words, but this is everything but the moon stuff that gets printed.
Yeah. So nice sort of background, astronomically themed. So we provide that. And Chris, I could see Chris framed his. So frame them, stick them up on the wall, stick them up in the observatory, hang them up in the observatory for all to see and enjoy. Who can do this? Anybody. Anybody on this planet can do the Explore the Universe observing program. So you don't have to be a RASC member to complete this program and get approved and receive the certificate and pin. So we like this a lot for that reason. It gets everybody a little bit more knowledgeable about the universe around them. And we'd like to show sites to some of these easy accessible sites in the celestial sky to everyone. So
I just sent a certificate to Egypt, so we do send internationally.
Nice, cool.
That happens to be a RASC member who is just living there right now. But if you were looking at the RASC Explore the Universe page and looking at all those people, the recipients, you'd see some are known as public. So those are people from the general public that have applied, and we've certified them. There's my reminder down near the bottom. Go to function not allowed. No certificate for you if you use your go-to.
Well,
so,
Blake, maybe you could address a little bit about how do you prove that? I mean, what is the honor system? How does this all work?
Yeah, this is not a dissertation for your PhD. We do expect people to present things reasonably and fairly what they actually did, but we can't sort of prove or substantiate these things. So we just entrust that people are using visual techniques and star hopping. Maybe not formally star hopping at this early stage. That's a bit more of an advanced skill, but people are able to, by easily looking at a chart, find or a starfinder, finding the general area where they should go and then seeing the object. One of the targets again is the Pleiades. So lots of people have seen that even before they begin a program like this. They've just seen it in the sky. They know how to identify it with their eyes. So you just aim your telescope in that general area and you look through the telescope and you go, I got it. Or you aim your binoculars and you go, look at those stars in the Pleiades.
That's another good reason to record who was with you. If you do need a witness or, just somebody to nod and say, yeah, I saw her find them on her own and look at her on her own. That's great to have that if you need it.
Yeah. The review process for the Explore the Universe is streamlined, maybe, if that's the right word, in that we just ask that one person validate it. With our other programs, we're asking that 2 fellow members or 2 people review the application, review the log notes and so on. So to a degree there, you're being scrutinized by some peers or fellow members there. But in many cases, that's people who are observing together and know each other well and stuff like that. Yeah.
I don't know if, Chris, if you have a logbook on hand, is one thing we had a lot of conversations in Explore the Moon. What does a log sound like? Like Explore the Moon, when we talked about it, was just something that you saw or helped you, but curious, what do you guys put down for logs?
So one of the things I like to handwrite my logs. Some people, I think, Blake, you like to audio record a lot when you're observing, don't you?
Yeah.
And I also find that in winter, sometimes your writing is not very good. You're wearing gloves or something. As long as you can read it later.
So Chris has a simple notebook there. That's the checklist from the Explore the Moon. And maybe, Chris, do you still have that page open? I'll stop my share again. Do you still have that RASC webpage open? We can take a look at one of the example logbook pages there. So you can just casually write in a notebook. That's fine. We do encourage people, though, to read the program notes to know what you're to capture or to record. There's obvious things like the date and time. So go to that list of files down at the bottom, Chris. And so way down at the bottom. And there's a log page. You can choose either the log page left or right. Doesn't matter. Yep. Click on one of those. Here's the PDF. So here's a nice log page if you don't know sort of where to start. Just print that off. Copy it or print it 20 times. And you've got your log notes there. Zoom in a bit for me, Chris. You can see that we prompt for the date, the time. Remember what Chris just said a moment ago, record who you're with. We have a box for that, your co-observers. There, record the sky condition, cloudy, clear, steady, hazy, humid, and then the object that you went for. We like to know the optics, you know, what you used in your optical train. Was it binoculars? Was it a telescope? Which eyepiece was in the telescope? Do you know the magnification? Starting out, you may not know how to determine the magnification, but it's pretty easy to calculate that. But nevertheless, note your telescope and the eyepiece, and that tells you everything. And we got a little box there for the description. So put your notes. If you're looking at a double star, what were the colors of it? If you're looking at the moon, was that crater floor flat, smooth, bumpy, ridged? Could you see lava flows in it? Was the central peak very prominent? Just tell us what you see. And we got a little circle there if you're inclined to do a little sketch. Double stars, you put 2 dots in it, and you know where the west direction is in your telescope if you can figure that out easily, and note north where relevant. So there's a sort of pre-done log form for the Explore the Universe.
I found those log forms nice too, because I downloaded them onto my iPad and I would write them so I wouldn't have the dark problems. But they're all handwritten, so you can obviously see it's my handwriting, but that also helps when I eventually have to submit it. It's already all scanned in.
So Chris, back out of here and let's load up the double star one, because that's got a different structure. So jump into double stars and we'll look at one of those log pages there. What can we use here? Third one, single page. Here's the double star one. You can see it's got a lot of same stuff, date, time, optical equipment that you used. But we're looking at double stars, so we want to know colors and what's the orientation. Was the second star at the 1 o'clock position or the 2 o'clock position, or maybe no, it was to the southeast. So we want to know orientation. Distance is how far apart they are, tight, close, wide. So double stars, different sort of things we're searching for, but broadly same sort of thing. What did you observe? And make some notes and do a sketch if you're inclined. So a lot of the programs have little log sheets that accompany them, and they kind of prompt you for what to think about collecting. But you don't have to use these, but look at it before you get too far down the road in a program to figure out what we want to see or know that you're observing.
Here's my double star. So I would log in my notebook, handwritten, and then I produced an Excel spreadsheet where I put in the date and time, where I was, and the sky conditions, and here's the description of the object and the date and time. And I added things like how high in the sky was it, the elevation, just so I had a sense of whether it was nice and crisp and high or low and in the murk.
That kind of follows along what Linda was saying. She'll write sketch notes when she's on site, and then she'll come back and go back home and transcribe everything. We also have a comment from Terry. Is a sketch from the telescope view, so the north is bottom is west on the right? But I guess would that depend on your telescope? Or?
It depends, yeah.
Yeah.
So the quick way to figure it out is count the reflections. So if you have an even number of reflections in your telescope, it'll be a rotated view. Probably north will be down. But everything else is the same as if you were looking at the sky with your eye. It's just rotated 180.
Yeah.
If you have an odd number of reflections, probably north is up, and then east and west are flipped. You get a mirror inversion. So I just count the reflections in a telescope, and I know which way the view is oriented. And you can figure out west really easily. If you have a telescope that's being driven, it's following the sky, it's tracking at a sidereal rate. You just pause the tracking, you turn it off for a second. Maybe turning off, I shouldn't say, because that might suggest turning off the mount and you would lose all your settings. But good mount software or a good mount system will allow you to temporarily pause the tracking and then just let things drift. And everything sets in the west. Mm-hmm. So that's your simple rule. You can figure out west really easily. Just watch where things drift out of view.
One last question. How do we know what seeing is? Do we want a description? Do we want a number? Do we want like a percentage? How particular do you need? Whatever
you're comfortable with. But lots of people will use words like mushy, swimming, boiling. That's fine. Some people use formal scale systems. I don't use a numeric scale system myself. I just sort of describe what it looks like to be steady, rock solid, fairly good, variable, seeing's poor, bad, swimming, like looking through a stream or a babbling brook. That's when it's really bad. Thanks for sharing there, Chris.
Yeah, and just to follow up with Terry. So yeah, the sketch, the way I do my sketches is it reflects what I view. And as Blake said, you can just put your north, south, east, west, depending on your sketch. You don't have to orient your sketch to the cardinal directions. Sketch is trying to communicate what you viewed in your own telescope. Is that correct? Is that what you would go along about it?
Yeah. Yeah. So in my sketch, I'll figure out where west is. in situ, I won't put north, but I know where that is based on my telescope system, but I'll add that later to my sketch, maybe the morning after. So yeah.
We have about 20 minutes. Blake, what do we want to get to next?
I was just going to briefly mention my logging. I have life lists on my website, so I keep all my viewed targets on my life list, and then I do direct observing notes that come from audio recordings. I put those in a blog. So I have individual log entries for the evening, but then I have a life list, and that's a bit like what Chris's spreadsheet is that he keeps. That's a life list. He can sort it. He can search for stuff. So there's no right or wrong answer for any sort of logging. It's very much a personal thing. So explore the universe. We've covered that. Explore the moon. Again, good for people starting out and people that want to pursue the program with binoculars. There are 40 targets, so very achievable, can be done. My note at the bottom says it's the fastest program. Please don't rush. We don't want people to rush through observing, but it's the fastest one that could be done in that you could do it in a month or two, the binocular program, and reach all the targets in just one full cycle of the moon.
If you get clear skies.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the other problem, the one thing about the Explore the Moon is this is the one I've about 75% done. More detail. We've walked you through the whole program. I'll send a YouTube link on our Moon at Noon series. But with the Explore the Moon, if you miss a target, we work kind of on days. Each day you can see a different part of the moon. And if you miss kind of a day and it's too far away from the shadows, and you don't feel like getting up at like 4 a.m. for the second half of the month, which I wake up 10 minutes before I have to go to work, then you're waiting another month to do it. Unlike some of the other programs where, okay, well, it was a cloudy night and I missed seeing the Andromeda Galaxy tonight, it's gonna probably be up the next night.
For the season.
For the season, right?
Yeah.
But then if you miss the season, then it takes a whole year to go back.
Now you got to wait a year, yeah.
Yeah. So all of them have their pros and cons.
That happened to me with the double stars. I missed a few when I started, and I had to wait almost the year to get the last couple.
So here's the other details about, again, the Explore the Moon has kind of 2 sub programs in it. So you can use binoculars. We'll provide a certificate upon completion if you use a telescope. Then we'll provide a certificate and pin, but you've got more work to do. There are 94 targets plus a few additional optional ones in that program. Again, a great thing about the Explore the Moon is you can do it anywhere, anytime, city, within the city, from your balcony.
Yep, downtown.
A lot of friends on my front porch by just sticking my telescope out on summer day. The pin's also about the same size as the Explore the Universe pin. And those are the only 2 big pins we actually have. So you want the most prominent ones, you got to get Explore the Universe and Explore the Moon.
Yeah. So all these images that are showing are a supersized version of what the pin would look like. Okay.
So Blake, there's a question on the chat. Can someone take a picture of the moon, label the features, and submit that? Because they can't sketch. But you don't have to sketch. You can describe.
Yeah. So
also, I challenge you to sketch. At the end of every Explore Moon at Noon, we did a sketching session, and you can see all the variability. It doesn't have to be perfect.
So what we think of as sketching for visual observing is as a sketch done at the eyepiece, in situ, during that observing session. That's how we sort of envision it. That I got to think about that a little bit. Can we take a picture and label everything?
Well, the point is that you're identifying the feature described. You may want to note 1 or 2 aspects of it that confirm that it's looks as what it's supposed to look like. There's no requirement to have sketched it anyway, is there?
Yeah, no. Sketching again is optional. Either some log notes to tell us what you saw, log notes with a sketch, lovely, or a sketch that was done at the eyepiece that is annotated. Lots of detail and labels on the sketch in lieu of some notes. We would expect in the margins of the sketch the observing details, date, time, sky condition, telescope, eyepiece, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So a sketch with lots of notes, just notes, and the two combined. That's what we're looking for.
Okay.
Here's the Messier program, more intermediate program, can be done by people star hopping. There's a distinction, though, to be made here, that people can use a go-to telescope. There's Chris's pin for it. Hold that steady again. Hold it up for a few seconds so we can get a good look at it.
You got it, Chris? Okay. Oh, there we go.
There it is, nice blue.
Chris,
with all the
talk a little bit.
different objects. So again, you can use a go-to telescope and go to your targets in the program, but identify that you want to decide that. If you want to do the Messier program by star hopping, by traditional method, not using the go-to capabilities of the hand controller or a computer for go-to capabilities, you want to make that decision right at the beginning, that I'm going to do it by the manual means, and then you stick to that.
But you can go back, right? You could go back and decide at some point, now I'm good enough to find things. I'll start over, basically.
Yeah. I just sort of emphasize front loading that decision, because you don't want to be at object 109 and be applying for the manual traditional program and find out that you did it the wrong way.
Right.
So
and it's such a good practice to learn it. It's really helps. It's really good idea to do it.
But again, it lots of different situations here for different people. If you're in a medium light polluted sky, it might be really hard to star hop.
Yeah.
And if as long as you can get the telescope to be aligned properly, it knows where the objects are. So we don't care. We just want you to sort of pick a path and try to stick to that as much as you can. Certificate and awarded upon completion.
A little preview is we will be talking about Messier objects again this year, coming up in a new Insider's Guide, as we come up in Messier season, where people try to attempt the Messier marathon. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and Samantha and I might even look at, doing a regular Messier kind of Messier corner in our sessions and help people to work through the program. If you want to think about that, it's an option. Yeah. Carry on, Blake. Sorry.
No worries. As I mentioned, Alan Dyer built this Finest NGC program a number of years ago. That was the second observing program that RASC offered. Lovely objects here. Again, great for people wanting to see a wide variety of deep sky objects. In deference to the Messier program, 110 objects. Some of those are combos and pairs, like the Athena galaxies. That's 2 objects, really. So great sort of program. You need sort of medium-sized telescope. Somewhat dark skies for some of these targets are going to be required. I am not applying for this program, but I have gone to all of these objects. I used the Burt Gaffney observatory, the free telescope, via social media, free telescope. I imaged all of the Finest NGCs with the BGO Galaxy in Halifax. There is no certificate program in RASC for that. And I didn't do it visually, but it's a great list. I so enjoyed imaging all of those objects.
So that was part of the inspiration for the Beyond Messier articles that I've been writing in Sky News. Is I would go to star parties and people would be talking just Messier, and nothing new. And I knew about the Finest NGC and some of these other non-Messier objects that were fantastic. So gives people broaden their horizons.
Yeah. I'm having a lot of, when I'm looking for an object, just using the observer's handbook at the back. The pages don't change. So if you haven't gotten your current one, it will still be in the 2021. And it gives a lot of hints of what season they're in and everything. So RASC members.
So great program there. Here's our newest program, the double star observing program. Again, great for people star hopping or using a go-to scope, 110 targets. But if you know anything about double stars, often they're triples or quads. So for the observing program, we want you to see the pair of stars. Okay, there's 220 objects that you have to see. The 110 pairs, right? But then there's often a triple, or it's part of a little quadruple or quintuple system. So you might see some compelling stars near the double target that's of interest, and you might sketch that. You might go, there's a couple of little stars right beside this pair. Yeah. Maybe it's a quad. Maybe it's a quintuple system. That's something I really enjoy when I see a new double star. I'm going, what is this? Is it a simple double? Is it a triple? What's going on? So I'll just make good observing notes or a fun little sketch of what I see.
And big ups to Blake for spearheading the project. Thank you, Blake. And thank you for putting in all kinds of cool little surprises in there. I really enjoyed the program.
Good.
And I can do it at home on my driveway in suburbia, which is great.
Even if the moon, the moonlight is interfering.
So thank you.
Brand new program. We don't have a pin for it, but hopefully this year we'll make a new pin for that. And for all the people that did, we'll grandfather them in, and they'll get the pin. There, you happy, Chris? There.
Yes.
If we get more people doing the program, then we have a better argument for getting a pin too. So come on, I need more pins to sort through.
Yeah, it's really fun. Go for it. People should try it.
One of our more challenging programs is the Isabelle Williamson Lunar Observing Program. You can see there's 271 targets, and then there's a 177 additional challenge targets on top of that. Or if you observe every single object in the program, that's 1,000 objects on the moon that you can view.
No, Chris, you were telling me you were doing this as a completionist. Are you doing the 1,000?
No, I haven't gotten to the 1,000 yet, but I was telling Samantha that of the 430 odd targets, I think I've got 420 of them, or 415, because I like to see everything. Takes longer to compile it.
So we were talking about before about, weather conspires against us, and you miss something, maybe a deep sky object, you got to wait a year for it to be in a good place in the sky again. Some of the targets in the Isabelle program are right at the edge of the moon, so you have to wait for the optimal libration. And if the libration positioning is not correct, if that angle is no good, you can't really see the object as best as possible or at all. So some of these, you got great weather, but the moon's not rotated the right way for you to see that object. So that's a great program for people interested in doing a very deep exploration of the moon. And here's our dark sky or deep sky, more challenging advanced observing programs. Deep Sky GEMS has 150 targets plus, medium to big aperture. Dark sky is needed for some of these targets. If you want to see what you're up against, have a look in the Observer's Handbook. That's the list. David Levy created this list based on his observing log notes, his favorite deep sky objects. So that's the basis for the Deep Sky GEMS program. I've been feeling wayward the last year or so. I've completed a lot of projects. I've been sort of wondering what to do, and thank goodness I have Sky Tools to give me some suggestions of things to look at. But for deep sky objects, I was wondering, well, what am I going to do now? I've seen all the Messiers at least once. I've imaged all the finest NGCs. I'm not quite sure I'm up for the Herschel 400 yet, but then it hit me, wait a minute, we got our own. We got David's Deep Sky GEMS program. This is my next project. I'm really looking forward to viewing all of these objects. So that's a great program. We don't have a pin for that. That's just a sketch by David.
Page 324.
Yeah, thank you. And then we have Deep Sky Challenge. And you look at this, 45 targets, that's easy. Some of these are really hard. like quasars and very faint diffuse objects. You'll need a dark sky for sure. Some people have needed to borrow a big scope to see some of these. Some of the people have been waiting to get the last couple of items off their list, and it's not until they've had maybe a 12 or 14-inch scope or something like that that they've been able to tick that last box off. So neat program. On paper, it looks like it's a very small list, but quite challenging.
So talking about these scopes, what are our kind of like, we say no go-to scopes for some. We had a question too in the YouTube chat about observations using astro cameras for deep sky certs. Are we allowed to like go to Killarney and use the scopes they have there? And does that count as observations, or is it kind of just personal hobby telescopes we're looking at to complete these challenges?
I don't think any of us care what instrument is used. You use your own gear if you have it. Use your center's Lunar telescopes.
Yeah.
When you're at the center's observatory, use that telescope. And in fact, with programs like this, where there's some challenging objects and you need more aperture, you stockpile those more challenging faint objects for when you're in a dark sky location and you've got a big aperture telescope that you can borrow. Now, if that's a center club telescope is mounted on a go-to system, well, you could ask somebody to move the telescope into the general area and show me how to use the joystick or the hand paddle controls or the computer controls to push or nudge the scope as if I'm star hopping. So that might be a go-to system, right? But you could still, do something like a push to just a slewing action to get to it, or you're going down and pursuing the go-to program. So that's fine. Yeah. It's a non-issue. So you use any gear you have access to and be selective. If you've got a smallish scope and you've got some challenging targets, well, you'll just have to put some on the list where you got to wait till you're in the right place with the right gear. And a fun thing is borrowing somebody else's telescope, finding the object, and then you share that with the other people around you. Oh, I finally found my last deep sky challenge object. It's this super faint wispy thing. Have a look. That's the great thing about what we do.
And all the Explore the Universe people are saying, can't see anything.
Yeah.
So we should run one of our polls here as we're getting the last couple minutes.
Yes. So I accidentally had a poll running about completed observing programs. And so the people that did answer, let me just quickly share my screen because I have the answer on there. Sorry, Blake, I'm going to take you away. Most people here have not finished an observing program. However, quite a bit of you explore the universe and explore the moon, and then Messier. But somebody finished the Deep Sky Challenged objects.
Wow.
That's impressive. We don't have names, and whoever you are, you get like a round of applause. But as I said, I haven't finished one yet, but I am in progress, even though it's been put on hold for months. So my question now is, which ones do you have anything in progress? So it should be out there.
Yeah, I don't think we can answer.
Yeah.
I think, you can answer.
Analysts aren't allowed.
Oh.
Okay.
Chris, while they're answering, what do you have in progress?
So I finished Messier. I have finished, I've met the qualifications for Isabelle Williams and Explore the Universe, but I have yet to apply. And I finished Double Stars, Messier, Finest NGC, and I've started on the David Levy list. Well, Blake, let me ask you about Isabelle Williams versus Moon Binoculars versus Moon Telescope. Are you disqualified from any one of them if you've completed, one or the other, or are they all up for grabs?
They're all available. Yeah, you're not disqualified. No.
So you just start over observing again, want to start a new program.
with the Explore the Universe, right, the binocular and the telescope one has overlap. But to the Isabelle, I don't think there's a lot of overlap. There might be, but still you might be looking at the same craters, but the objective is different. You know, you're looking for craterlets beside the main crater, and you know, stuff like that. So they're sort of unique. There is a bit of overlap across all of the programs, but not too much. So you can recycle an observation. I think that's okay. If you want to start carte blanche, when it hit me, hey, I'm going to do the deep sky gems, then my next thought was, I wonder how many I've already done. So I went through my life list and I've viewed 25 of them.
Yeah.
But I decided I'm starting at 0. I'm going to get a brand new logbook of blank pages, and I'm doing every observation again. I just want to do it that way.
Good for you.
So,
well, if anybody's going down to the Southern Hemisphere, you can start in your Caldwells.
Right. So we have start up. We've had some. Lori, don't feel bad. You haven't finished any. You're out there. You're observing. Like,
take your
keep
time.
going. Take your time. About 50 of you are not working on any right now, but that will come up. That will relate to our next question. Some Isabelle Williams, some Explore the Universe, some Explore the Moon. Messier. Nice. Nobody wants to do the deep sky gems, the deep sky objects. No,
I'll get there. I'll get there. Once we can leave home and get to the dark sky locations, we'll get there.
So I will say, the last month I took over the role of sending out the certificates, and I love to see names on it that I know. I get really excited if I recognize your name. I'm like, yeah, go. A little party in the office. Like, I'm excited about everybody who does it. So, okay. Well, let's kind of go on to our next one while we're in the thing. Well, if you haven't started one, are you planning to do a program? Maybe after this one? Anything seem interesting?
Yes.
Chris, are you going for all of them? You're going for all of them, aren't you?
I'll try. I don't know if I'll be able to do the challenge objects unless I get more time under pristine skies, good skies. But yeah, I was going to mention when we got time at the end is what to use. If you can get your hands on a nice Dobsonian, an f5 Dobsonian telescope, 8-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch with a Telrad finder, which I think is a really excellent tool. You almost don't need go-to. Makes it so much easier to have that wide field of view that those telescopes give you. And then you crank up the power once you found it. But to search, it's way easier with a big wide field scope.
I know in the pre-Christmas holidays, you were talking about sort of your wish list, what Santa might put under the tree. And one of the things that you and Alendria talked about was the Zoom eyepiece. So I've started doing that with my double star observing. I've started using a Zoom eyepiece, and I'm really enjoying that. The sacrifice in quality is more than made up for being able to quickly view at so many different magnifications. I always start with a new double star at the lowest power I can go. I just see what I can see, and then I start going deeper to coax out faint companions and tight pairings.
I did that with the moon. I would look with my widest thing, and then I would throw on my Barlow, and that with the same lens, and it just helped me find it and then get the detail I needed. Again, I'm still learning.
The moon programs, they really need the magnification and the good seeing conditions because you're looking at tiny little features.
And Chris, do you not use a filter as well for the moon to cut the brightness? Yeah.
I'll use a variable polarizer, which is great because it's applicable for any different phase of the moon, so you can dial it to whatever's comfortable. So that's a great investment.
I just got one of those, so I'm excited.
And you know what? If you take it apart and use only one segment of it, then you can look at the moon in the daytime. So sometimes I'll get out in late afternoon and it's still daytime, and I'll get a few objects off the moon just by using the polarizer to darken the sky and increase the contrast. You can do some moon in the daytime.
So quickly, explore the moon. We have almost 50% of people wanting to explore the moon, explore the universe.
Nice.
Messier. Keep going. You guys being so excited and planning on this just makes us want to talk more and more. Yeah.
Good job, Blake. Good salesmanship. So do you have any final thoughts in the last 3 or 4 minutes here? Any else slides you wanted to show?
Yeah. Send any questions in the chat if anybody has some.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say is if people are new and starting out and you've got your first couple of observations done, if you have any concerns, if you're not 100% clear about how the program works and what's expected of you, let's nip those nagging questions you have in the bud right away. So reach out, send an email to observing@rasc.ca and ask me for some help or guidance. In center, sometimes there's mentoring. So within a center, there might be somebody that could answer a lot of questions. And these days, we haven't been able to observe a lot sort of together. But mentoring is a great thing if and when that can happen. But in the meantime, just reach out to us and say, am I doing this right? Here's my first log sheet. Did I fill out everything right? Am I answering the questions correctly? We would love to catch anything that maybe you've misinterpreted or point you in the right direction. Again, before you get 100 of them done and realize that there's some piece of information missing or you didn't collect something the right way. So don't hesitate. I'm at your disposal. Ask any questions about the observing programs. I'm happy to help out.
And a lot of the centers have newsletters that ask how their members are progressing to the programs, and don't be shy to report your progress or your completion, because you're not bragging. What you're doing is you're alerting other members to the fact that you've experienced it, you've finished, and they can then call on you as a resource as well locally in your own center, which is also great.
That's what the RASC is about, just a bunch of people getting together, talking about how much they love astronomy and helping each other along. So just to finish a couple of things, if you're in the US, the Astronomical League is another organization that offers rewards and recognition for programs. They have many, many dozen programs that they can look at. So Astronomical League, and Canadians can join the Astronomical League. It's, I think, $50 US to join as a at-large member. And so you could submit and get some of their recognition as well for their programs. Blake, last to you.
In particular, the Astronomical League has the Herschel program. So lots of people that have completed the Messier and maybe done the finest NGC, they want more faint fuzzies. So the Herschel 400 is a fantastic program. There's a Herschel 400-2, which is another 400, even more challenging objects. Then there's the Herschel 2500. That's like crazy. But the Astronomical League supports those programs and certifies people who complete those. Yeah. Our friends to the south, they have lots of great programs. Yeah. I don't know if anybody tunes in from the British Astronomical Association, but they have observing programs too. So different places around the world have lots of different programs. Yeah.
This is great. Well, thank you so much, Blake, for sharing your time with us today, and welcome, Samantha. You did great, I think. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And people can reach out to us if they have further questions that they need help with. And
use the contact forms on the website, the outreach one. I'll point you in the right direction to people. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for the warm welcome of my first time. And yes, we are back for regular sessions. We have them all planned up to April, and they're going to keep going after that. We're hoping to. So, but check on our website, follow the email. You'll get email, all that fun stuff. And yeah, I guess clear skies.
Keep looking up.
Keep looking up. Bye, everyone.